the lecture. Reason being that there is tension almost everywhere. The university is a little bit tense because of the planned protest. But somehow we were advised to allow the lecture to take place. Tomorrow, all the gates leading to the university will be locked because we want to secure not only the lives of our students who are still on campus and our staff who are residing on campus, but also the properties of the university. And so that was what made us initially thought this lecture should be moved to a relatively friendly day. But I'm glad that it's moving. If you notice, a lot of people are not here, both staff and students. It's because they are preparing for the planned protest that will take place, that might take place tomorrow and day after tomorrow. So please try and understand with us. Many years ago, I was told that we need 5 minutes. We all take our own 5 minutes of madness. But the thing is, how do we measure that 5 minutes of madness? How do you know that the person has not exceeded the normal 5 minutes of madness or has extended his 5 minutes into normal madness? Every day, I see people on campus and outside manifesting what I always tell myself is the 5 minutes of madness. And how do you also measure when somebody's madness is beyond the 5 minutes and is no longer the normal 5 minutes? Like you go out, you see some of these, they say they are mad. That's the term we use. They have psychiatric problems. How do we know if they're actually taking their 5 minutes? And their 5 minutes is a little bit more frequent than it should be. So this lecture is sort of important and apt because today an expert is going to tell us when that 5 minutes is no longer 5 minutes. Recently, a girl in the hostel, a student, attacked another student and beat her ear. The student was suspended. But if the student is actually taking her normal 5 minutes, why should she be suspended? Since we all have our own 5 minutes of madness. So, my colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I won't take so much of our time, but I want us to listen to an expert in this area to advise us, to advise management, to advise academics here. I've also seen the military here to also advise them because it seems as if their own 5 minutes is more frequent than ours. On how to measure madness, both the madness within us and the madness without and the madness in between. Thank you very much. So on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, who unfortunately is not here today, but I am here as the acting Vice Chancellor, and on behalf of management, I hereby declare this inaugural 127th inaugural lecture open. Thank you.
That is the opening remarks of the acting Vice Chancellor. The stage is almost set for us to keep the Mossad rolling. And it is my pleasure to invite his friend, his student, the mentee of the inaugural lecturer, to please comfort and present the inaugural lecturer. Can we put our hands together for him as he comes out?
The Vice Chancellor, Deputy Representative, and Acting Vice Chancellor, the PDC Administration, the representative of the registrar, honorable Udofia. This is the citation of Professor Owoidoho Udofia. May I respectfully request that the 127th inaugural lecturer please stand up. George Orwell, in his classic, The Animal Farm, wrote that all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. In any collection of people, there is always someone or some persons who stand head and shoulders above others in some regard. Professor Owoidoho Udofia is such a man. After 6 years with hard labor, so to speak, no strikes and little distraction, Professor Udofia graduated from medical school. It was rumored then that doing hard job in Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital Zaria would ensure a quick start on independent medical practice instead of getting laboratory results, as was the usual case in most teaching hospitals in the South. Hard job positions were easily available those days. He submitted an application on a Friday. By Monday, he got an appointment letter. He reported for duty on Tuesday and was placed on call that same day, well within 30 days of his leaving medical school in 1979. To Monday morning. Thereafter, taking a place at the lowest rung of the ladder for the world ranks by 8 a.m. He had often considered himself a hard worker before now. Now, he seems to have finally understood what hard work really meant. In 335 days, he had paid his due, got signed up as job, traveled west to General Hospital Iwo, then in Oyo State, to serve his fatherland in a mandatory 1-year National Youth Service Program. After NYSC, he abandoned a lecturer 2 job because he would not qualify for university accommodation, and also declined being the first medical officer in a newly opened general hospital because he insisted on staying in the state capital. The only hospital in Calabar with a vacant position was the one along Calabar Road. Yes, Nigeria's first lunatic asylum. By accepting the job in psychiatric hospital and living beyond the Calabar cemetery. He would stay in psychiatry for a month or 2, waiting, he rationalized, for his appointment letter for residency training in Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital Zaria. He had completed medical school without ever setting foot in a psychiatric ward. He finally discovered psychiatry, and it was magic. His entire being and the specialty, a perfect blend, with mentors sent from heaven, so to speak, and the comparative advantage of his personality and endowment, he ensured mastery of the subject. He had a formal training in psychiatry at both the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Owoidoho State, then still a WHO collaborative center of research and training in mental health, and at the Royal South Armed Hospital, Southampton, United Kingdom, where he had his 1 year abroad. He subsequently picked up the fellowship of 2 prestigious colleges, the National Graduate College of Nigeria, where he became the first to complete residency training in psychiatry in regulation time, as well as the West African College of Physicians. He settled down to teach psychiatry to medical students in the University of Calabar in 1986, where he has worked till date. He has taught psychiatry to thousands of undergraduate medical students for over 3 decades. He has also taught postgraduate psychiatry to resident doctors in internal medicine, family medicine, and psychiatry, where he has guided and prepared hundreds of resident doctors through their mentorship examinations and probably about 40 through their fellowship examinations. Most of them in Calabar, a few in Kano, fewer still in Kaduna, Sokoto, Jos, Zaria, Uyo, and the diaspora. Owoidoho Udofia has spent over 3 decades practicing, teaching, and writing psychiatry. He is author to over 70 publications in reputable high-impact factor journals with over 1,400 citations and has written several book chapters. Apart from teaching psychiatry to individual doctors, he has been involved for several years in administration. He has been head Department of Psychiatry for several years, and he served as chairman, Medical Advisory Committee, UCTH Calabar, for more than 4 years. Professor Udofia has influenced the development of psychiatry, both in direction and momentum, in Nigeria. He has served as secretary, faculty board of psychiatry of the National Graduate College of Nigeria. He served also as chairman, faculty of psychiatry, National Postgraduate College for another 4 years, and chief examiner psychiatry of the National College for 4 years. He served in the Senate of the college for close to 15 years in several capacities, including chairman of the Toxicology Committee and the College IT Committee, and in the governing board for 4 years. He has also served as an examiner and council member of the West African College of Physicians. Professor Udofia has been involved in medical politics even before his first national examination as a student in the university, and was active throughout his residency training in his local branch. As a consultant, he was chairman of the Medical and Dental Association of Nigeria, UCTH chapter. His mark has actually been in the national scene, where he has served continuously in the National Executive Committee of MDCAN for 8 years, 4 years as vice president, and 2 years as president. He has been active in the Association of Psychiatrists in Nigeria and has served as president of the association for 4 years. He is currently representing Central and West Africa in the board of the World Psychiatric Association. As an academician, his interest has been in the field of psychiatric epidemiology and has helped develop and standardize several psychiatric instruments. His clinical interest in the last several years has been in psychosomatic medicine. He and his team are working on culture-bound somatic symptoms, like internal ache and crawling sensation, symptoms we see clinically every day. He has received several awards and fellowships from his colleagues and peers. He is an awardee of the membership of the World Psychiatric Association, Distinguished Fellowship of the Association of Psychiatrists in Nigeria, Distinguished Fellowship of the National Postgraduate College of Nigeria, and the Fellowship of the Nigerian Academy of Medicine. And in his lifetime, as a result of his contribution to the development of psychiatry, a ward has been named after him in the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Calabar. After over 30 years in Calabar, he was given an opportunity to serve his alma mater, the National Postgraduate College of Nigeria, as college registrar, a position he occupied for 4 meritorious years. During this time, he implemented the digital management system for resident training program and examination management portal. He also managed the changes in curriculum and standardization of examination processes that has resulted in changes in pass rate in several faculties. Professor Udofia was also at the center when the National College Dialogue with the National University Commission in the country at the end negotiated the direct PhD program for Nigerian doctors who had the fellowship of either of the two postgraduate medical colleges. He was registrad when the college introduced the postgraduate MD program to doctors. Our distinguished professor was registrar also when the President of Nigeria signed the Medical Resident Training Act, and it was his responsibility to midwife it. We are lucky today to have him here tell us about the impact of the training on the attitude of resident doctors. Professor Udofia also created enough time to have a rewarding social life. He holds a black belt in the martial arts of Taekwondo and is happily married and blessed with a few sons, one a consultant, 2 senior registrars, and 1 sweet adolescent boy. It is my honor and privilege to present to you an intellectual giant, an erudite scholar, a teacher of teachers, and a mentor of mentors, Professor Owoidoho Udofia.
Left, right. For now, right. For now, right. Yes, right. Thank you. My Chairman Committee of Deans, represented by former Chairman of Committee of Deans, Professor Aniezong Igiri. The Deans, my Provost and the Provost of Graduate School, Deans present, Professors, Heads of Department, Fellows of National and West African College of Physicians, my friends and relations, and some of the friends who came despite telling them the road is unsafe.
I don't hear them.
If I got the protocol wrong, you know who to blame. You notice someone gave me some papers just before I started reading. We are going to go through I just made it up to 10. We'll finish in no time. So don't think I'm going to talk on 10 different things. No. When you are measuring things, just take the thing, measure, and get on with your life. That's exactly what we are going to do. But since I was told I have over 30 minutes, maybe 40, I decided to thin it down so that it would last the whole time. I don't want to, at the end of it, I was told that I'm a professor. I couldn't even talk for up to the time I was given. Now, the first thing we are going to talk about is look at how things are related. All of us who have done lots of physics. It's called the special relativity theory, and it does nothing but see the relationship between energy and mass. I'm starting to talk about that one because it's such a big our relationship from and talk about what he has done. But 4 or 5 years, nobody even noticed it. We thought 10 years, 20, it's actually like 40 years after that people started understanding what he was talking about. What he talked about was beyond the generality of the physicists of those days. They just didn't understand. So it took time for people to read, understand, and realize how important his contributions were. Now, we're going to talk about another relationship. This one is of interest to me. I'm sure we all remember this question, even if you don't know what it is. Maybe I should say what it is because I took time to understand it in case I'm asked to explain. It says that anything, any mass, including this microphone I'm holding, in the right circumstances, it can be converted to energy. Actually, that energy and mass are the same things at different conditions. I'm sure you remember that when water is cold, it becomes ice. When it's a bit warm, it becomes liquid water. When it's warmer, it becomes gas. So that's the kind of thing. It's the same thing, but it can be converted directly into energy in the certain circumstances. I knew this formula all my life, but I had to understand it so I can explain. So if people didn't understand it for a long time, that's okay. It took me time too. Now, the other relationship that is of more interest to me this afternoon is it's called the theory of linguistic relativity. The other one we talked about was in core science. This other one is in core arts. Actually, it's in English. You remember many departments, universities have departments of linguistics and English. So it's not even social science, it's raw arts. This was proposed by Sapir Whorf. Sapir and Whorf are related. One of them was a teacher, the mentor of the other. And the relationship is between words, thoughts, and by extension, behavior. We need to get it straight. They mentioned that the structure of a language, the meanings of its words, and the syntactic constructions affect how speakers perceive and conceptualize the world. Slow down, even if you don't understand, I'll make it easy. The easiest way to understand this is we cannot think what we do not have words for. So if you grow up not having words for something, you can't conceptualize it, you can't think about it, you can't allow it influence your behavior. And talk about behavior like twice or so, you understand why I have interest in it. But let's push a little more. Let's take snow. I'm sure many of us know about snow. How many Nigerian languages have words for snow? Why should we? Some of us have lived and died without seeing snow. But then let's look at the English. When snow is just dropping droplets, they have a name for it. They call it flurry. I'm sure many of us have seen pictures of snowflakes, even if you have not seen it in real life. And if it's on the road, and as you drive on, it's a bit slippery, it's called slush. We all know what an avalanche is, even if we have never seen it. And these days of global warming, we've all heard of glacier. So we all know this. But it's an interesting thing because we need to talk about changes in behavior. There are lots of it. The slide is not very good, but trust me. Now, when you know that the road there's flurry on the road, sorry, the slush, slippery. If you are driving and you see a warning, what do? You already, if you know the word, you change your behavior. If you are driving and if you are driving fast you slow down. If you also see a warning, beware avalanche, if a Nigerian is going to drive successfully in any of those countries, he has to learn these words so that the behaviors would also change. And I note that the English have like 40 different words for snow. The Scottish neighbor just north of it have over 400. And if you think 400 is the largest, think about what the Eskimos would have. I'm even thinking that in Nigeria here, I'm in Bibio, and we have words for different types of sand. I don't know if any of you still remembers what we call ndede. And if you know that the road has that kind of slippery sand, and you are riding a bicycle, it changes your behavior. If someone you are riding and you are told, be careful, there's ndede on the road, you alter your behavior. I'm trying to say that words come with consequences. It's such a big relationship, not as big in physics as it is, but people who use words and who need to understand words, it's an important thing that you can't conceptualize what you don't have words for. And when you can, things that you know would alter your behavior. You all know we are talking about measuring madness, and madness is a lot of behavior. That's why I took time to make you understand what it's all about. The English also have 1,000 different words for mental illness. I'm not going to read all of them. I'm sure you can see there's mania, there's frenzy, delirium, hysteria. There are many more. What about your language? In Ibibio, for example, over an hour, I called my sisters, one of them is present here, and asked, what do we call madness in Ibibio? And herself and some other one went through that. They got up to 20 different words for it, actually more, but I just decided to make 20 so that it would be okay. So I have a big question. In your own language, because I'm sure we have over 50 different language groups here, what do you call madness in your own language? Sorry, I've been warned to drink water several times. Thank you. So what do you call madness in your own language? Do you have up to 50 different words? Do you have 20? Do you have 5? Do you even know 1 or 2? I'm really saying this so that the more words that is available in the language, the more sophisticated the people are in understanding madness. So if you are having as many as we do, and I know every tribe in Nigeria, every language group would have quite a few. You know why? Because we are all very sophisticated on it. We grow up in houses with it. We get altered by it. So it's such a big thing for all of us. Now, we are so sophisticated that we have our understanding of what causes mental illness. Many people believe that the spirits cause mental illness. And it doesn't really matter which spirit, whether it's the God of Moses, who appeared with the burning bush, or the Greek mythologies with 1,000 different gods, the Hindu, or even the people around here with the goddesses. These are capable of causing mental illness, we believe. Some people even believe the devil does too. But apart from these ones, we also believe that you can hurt the ancestors and get mad in the process. I mean, if there are things you shouldn't do, in my village, we don't eat kites. I've never asked why. I've never eaten kite. I don't ask what I eat, actually. But what if I did? Would I become mentally ill? And does the fear influence my behavior? You get the point. Because we know we don't do it. So you don't do it. It's not just ancestors. There are also relations, wicked relations, rivals, And I know that some people have gotten mad from their own behavior. Maybe they were trying to hurt other people and they had what is called a back to sender effect. Okay. And do we have our behaviors altered as a result of this? Some years ago, each time, my first 3 times of driving through, going by road, I wasn't driving them to to Lagos. We used to pass through the town, Benin. And each time I would see people dancing and a few girls with white and stuff going down that Ukuba slope and to the river for one sacrifice or the other. I'm just mentioning Benin because I noticed that. But in my own village, I've also seen people clap and wear white and paint up themselves with dome, clay, right? So many of us grew up and saw some of those things. As a result of maybe someone had developed one illness or the other, it alters behavior. And sometimes people go a bit beyond that, going to look at different, native doctors. It's even funny. I don't know whether it's the current Oba of Benin or the one before. I'm mentioning Benin so much because my friend just came from there. Maybe that's what's reminding me of Benin. He made a statue around New Benin. The psychiatric hospital is around there, so I know. And a week after, people started bringing sacrifices there. They had to announce on radio that, please, thank you for all the sacrifices, but stop bringing sacrifices today. I'm trying to say that the way we are, we have words, and it alters and influences our behavior. Some people are now going to different places because they want to be rich, to take some baths. I even hear people share soap these days, and if someone is taking a bath and is doing very well, you ask to share soap with you. Okay. All right. So the question becomes interesting. Do the madness caused by the devil, is it the same as the one God causes? And by the way, the Bible mentions God has caused illness, at least mental illness, at least once. 3 or 4 other instances the Bible refers to, but it wasn't caused by God. The one caused by God was, I think, King Nebuchadnezzar. What happened is that they checked and looked at the symptoms, signs in every part of the world: Colombia, Czechoslovakia, Denmark, India, China, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, United States. So I mentioned it to brag. That is. So, and what was found was that the illnesses, the symptoms were also the same. Not just same in all the parts of the country, all the geopolitical zones, but the same as those ones in all the other countries I'd mentioned. While many people will think that the devil is causing the same illnesses, the other way of thinking is maybe it is not the devil actually, or it's not God. Maybe there are biological things that are in each of us that is responsible. And that is the thinking now, because studies have shown exclusively and long studies have shown that there are biological changes that cause mental illness, and it is not the spirit, and it is not cursing. That. So are there genetic basis? We believe in Nigeria that there are genetic basis for illness. You tell your parents you are getting married to someone, they say, okay, come back in 2 weeks' time. And in 2 weeks' time, when you come back, they tell you, yes, it's okay, or they tell you, no, it's not okay. In that 2 weeks, they've sent people to go to the village of the person to check whether there's madness in their family, whether there's suicide, poverty, things like that, because they know that it runs in families. And medical science says it runs in families. So at least we believe the same thing that the scientists believe. So there's some biological basis for it, and that is the fact. And if I ask us to talk about features of mental illness, I'm sure many of us have a long history too. So I won't bore you with it. We all see them in the streets of Calabar, more than many other places. And one would wonder whether there's more madness here, but the truth is it's not. We have less patients compared to the other. So you ask a grandmother in town, what are the features of illness? They'll tell you that Okon, let's just call him Okon or Basi, whatever, as long as it's not my name, no problem. That he was good, doing well. Then after some time, he stopped changing his clothes, started wearing dirty clothes. Then he stopped wearing clothes at all, then didn't come back to the house. And once he reached the market, they stopped bothering about him, because we know that once a madman reaches the market, his own is final. Like I said, when you say someone is mad, there are consequences. So we say also that you call, in English, actually, you can call a dog a bad name to deal with it. So sometimes we're not sure whether it's you understand what I'm trying to say. Now, let's also take this other lady. This other lady is a banker, doing fine, a senior manager in a bank. Then some 6 months after the husband, nobody knew the reason, he just disappeared from the house, took his clothes, took his bags, took his certificate, and left her in the house. So she became tedious. She wasn't going to work anymore. She started crying unnecessarily. She didn't remove clothes and reach marketplace, but she was not able to function anymore. And when they finally reached the husband, he told them that that's why he ran away from the house. That every night at 3 a.m., she would wake him up and say, darling, did you lock the doors downstairs? So he'll go downstairs, checked, go back 2 hours later. It's like I'm hearing noises somewhere. So he had to choose between his own mental well-being and the wife's. And so the people who didn't understand that it was his presence that kept her going. So she lost that, and then things happened. Now, there are things we need to get some conditionalities from the two stories I've given. We'll look at what are the conditionalities for madness, okay? One is that there are symptoms, there are changes in behavior. The person wasn't like the person is doing is now. The person himself, in certain situations, get distressed. They suffer from the symptoms they have. Take the lady who would wake up at 3 a.m. every day to wake up. It's distressing for her. The first one who is at the street cleaning for everybody probably has no worries anymore. He has cut rope, like they say. All right. Now, if someone is having a job, the job would suffer. If someone is in school, school would suffer. So those are the core symptoms of, and also people in the relations, the environment would also suffer. Let's look at this other lady. Her name is Sharon Jane. The mother called me and said that she's not been sleeping for days. She's crying and things like that. I asked that she got served breakfast. So I said, so what? Let her eat that. That's when I knew the meaning of being served breakfast for the first time. Some of you don't know. Sorry, I learned it that day. So she got broke up a relationship with a boyfriend, okay? And she got so shattered by it. She couldn't go to school anymore. She was crying day in, day out. And there's really no problem. She didn't wake him up like the other person did. The reason he asked for a break is not really an important thing here, but she had that. So she cried for a few days and stopped. Let me ask you, we all understand that being served breakfast is a big event and anybody can cry and get unhappy about it. Was she mentally ill? Of course not, because if you've lived properly, you would have had to had your own heartbreak once or twice and maybe more if you've lived well enough. So, but if I now mention that that's what I call understandability. We understand that the person had a heartbreak, and as a result of that, there was an illness. But if I now tell you that I saw her like 8 months after the breakup, was she having a mental illness? Yes. I'm saying that someone lost a girlfriend or a husband or stuff, and 8 months, 1 year after that, you are still at it. You are still crying. You are not doing anything. I think you've gone beyond what we normally accept. We'll accept a few weeks for you to wake up and say there are many fishes in the river and then get on with their life. So so it's important that the duration should also be. Let's assume that Jane was in this kind of a class. There are several girls there. Several of them probably have been served breakfast. They all did not break down. So what made Jane break down and the other ones not break down? There's an interesting thing in life. We are not just like pins. You know, if you pick up a box of pins, new pins, they're all the same. You can't differentiate one from the other. But we have so much differences. If you go even physically, you see one of them is with glasses, hair is different, stuff. We are different from all. But most of the differences are more than skin deep. So we are now looking at the things that would make one more vulnerable to a mental illness and the other person less vulnerable. So that if 10 people are served breakfast, one breaks down and the other does not break down. There are 3 main things, and they are interwoven and they weave how resilient, how strong we are going to be. We call this constitution, and it's parents meet, they transfer genes, and the genes have a way of influencing their vulnerability later on in life. There are coping mechanisms and lots of things are determined by the genes. The other things are how the uterus is. I'm happy I've seen a few gynecologists here. Not just I need to mention that many babies, fetus, when they're in the womb, they are not able to see what is happening, but they sense some of the things happening in the environment. You remember that hormones pass the pass the placental barrier, and a lady who is carrying a baby and is stressed most of the time, the hormones the baby is being birthed with every day would also be the stress hormones, and there'll be chances it can influence how. But more than that, the process of labor itself is not just a one-day thing, it's not an hour thing. That process, many people, Nigeria has one of the highest, what's it called, perinatal death. And sometimes 20, let's say in 100, in 1,000 or so, like up to 10 or so die from labor itself. Maybe they didn't cry or birth or the process itself. But for everyone that dies, some survive. They survive, but their brain had been compromised. So we're all bothered about the people who die. Nobody bothers about the people who are born with compromised life, who are going to develop neurological problems or more vulnerable and susceptible to mental and behavioral disorders. Now, there are also very important things in the formative years of life, the parenting style, how we ate, how we got sick, whether we got immunized or not, things that happen to us. All these things come together to decide how we are going to be able to withstand stress later on in life. At the end of that period, we are like our constitution is made. It can be like A, which is sturdy and big. It can take a lot of stress. It can be moderate, or it can be bad. It can be low. It doesn't really matter what it is. When you are born, you are. Even if you are C with little and you have a lot of stress, all you need to do is locate any psychiatrist, and there are many of us here. We should be able to open the cap and pour things out so that you don't break down as a result of the stress that you're having. Now, I think we need to understand something that the BC alluded to, that 5 minutes of rage that he talked about. If we are here and there's an explosion outside, we'll run out, right? If we run out and Professor Ansah is here, who talked to us about the heart the other day, and he's measuring the blood pressure outside. Many of us who have regular blood pressure would have our blood pressure increased because of the running out. Okay? Sometimes when we're hungry, we may have symptoms that are almost the same as people who have peptic ulcer or ulcer would have. Now, what about when we are waiting for an interview? Have you ever had an oral exam and you are number 10 and they have called number 8? You know how you feel while waiting. Okay, those are all things that we can have. And you remember I mentioned that we understand that it's all on, we can understand it, understandability. Because you are going for an interview and you are stressed, because I'm coming to talk to big guys and I'm stressed and I've not slept for 1 week, I slept. Then it's normal. Okay, so that 5 minutes, my VC sir, we understand it. There's nothing wrong. The person is not ill. It's just that he got stressed. That's all. We'll look at it in a more graphical way as we go on. Now, when we are challenged with some stress, we have options. I'm talking about how to manage stress. Your teacher tells you, I'm told you have 10 more minutes and I haven't gone half through. If I'm reasonable, I can say the VC is after me. The other person got more time. I can think so. Or I get fast and get it done. Your teacher says you're not going to pass the exam. You sit down and study better. You do it. So that's direct coping. Other people don't do direct coping. They do what we call defense coping. Something happens, instead of facing it, you look for, the typical example would be the sour apple. I'm sure we all know. Someone wants to get some apple, is higher than he can get. Instead of going to look for a ladder to climb, he just shrugs away and says, like the girl, there are many fishes in the river. Instead of going to beg for reconciliation, you just stay there and get on with your life. Many other people have stress, and one is not over, another one comes on, another one is not over, another one comes on. So they get burnt out, and it's large number of people, my colleagues who are present, lecturers, have lots of burnout. And the other way is one breaks down with a mental illness. If we look at the person with C who is being faced with the same things, person in A and B have the same thing. While the person in B is starting to have issues, the person with C, with a relatively less sturdy constitution, has cracked up. Now, we've seen this picture, so we know what it's all about. This week, we have the Olympic Games, and it's a big example of measurement. That's why I'm talking about it. So that's Paris, is going on at the moment. But the core thing about the Olympic Games is that the story. You know, there are some goals that are called own goals, yes, that it's not how good the other people are, but there are mistakes. I'm trying to say that all measurements are not direct. There are some indirect measurements that are done. And the core thing making me go through this is let us know that the experts in fields take decisions how things are measured. That's the core thing. Let's take the footballers sat down the other day and said, we need to improve how offside is done, goal line technology, you know, all those things. So there's always changes to improve things. So experts are usually allowed to decide how measurements are done. I'm saying that because I'm one of the experts and we decide how we measure mental illness. We cannot use the measurements in raw science to measure our own situation. We allow the experts to take decisions on that. And measurement in health is not new. It's been on like forever. Initially, people needed to know when people are born and when they die. They had good reasons. People think it is so that they can know how when people are old enough to start paying taxes, conscription into the military, and things like that. And death is such a straightforward thing. We all know when someone is born. We know the time and the day. And when someone in health. So it alters lots of things. Normally, we would see when someone is sick and when the person gets well and measure only death. But they told people, they made us see that when a child is born, he's expected to come and live on earth successfully and contribute to the economy, health economics. So they should think about economy. So if someone is born and maybe he has polio and is not able to walk, how much is he, how do we compute his inability to work successfully? You understand that? So something like polio would have a high disability, as Dali we call it, disability assisted life years. I hope you can understand that. Let me push a little more. So if someone gets depressed, he's alive. He's depressed for 10 years. In the 10 years, let's assume he's a doctor. He was supposed to teach classes, do lots of things. And for that period of time, he's not able to do that. They calculate what is lost, what the society has lost from his inability to perform properly. You get the point. So that's the core thing. So it's not just death that is important. Years lived with disability are important because people are not going to be able to do what they were expected to do. So changing the definition of health was inevitable because the person is no longer healthy. He's bloody alive. He's alive, but he's not able to do what he's expected to do. And that's a big thing. So because of the introduction of DALIS, mental illness changed it changed the fortune or the understanding of mental illness in a lot of ways. Someone who is healthy, physically healthy, is not able to do anything, but because of the depression. So it became necessary and important to identify those things so that the person can get treated. Not because anybody is interested in being well or not, but is interested in his contributing his fair share to the economy. And you remember, many of us remember that during the lockdown, many parents were happy with the lockdown, they were staying at home. But the governments on earth and many other places were losing money. And many of the governments had to close the lockdown, let people go back to the state the person is living. You get the point. So what is happening is that everybody now knows that there are three big legs that health is standing on. There's the physical health, social, and mental. I'm a psychiatrist, so my interest is more on the mental. But that's not really the truth, because when someone has problems with his social well-being, he is likely going to have mental illness. When someone has problems with his physical health, he is going to have problems. So the three legs are interwoven and they relate closely. And social, and there's another important thing you need to know, that in medicine, we don't have figures, we have ranges. For example, the fasting blood sugar, like all of us, hope it's showing the stuff. It's a range. That's an important thing. The physicians have agreed that there should be a range, not just in blood sugar, in blood pressure, there's also a range that is normal. Why do we have ranges? Remember, sometimes we are sitting down comfortably like we're doing now. The heart pumps slowly. Everything is fine. Sometimes you are required to jump and run outside. The normal heart should be able to wake up to its responsibilities and make you able to cope with that. So that's why there are ranges, because there are times we are calm and rested, there are times we are busy and running around. So those ranges are important so that people can function in all. And then us psychiatrists in a big way. And for good reasons. Many studies have shown that, maybe I just take one good example. There is a study that followed, Harvard study that followed some graduates, about 300 and something graduates, with some people living in the suburbs around that university. And the study has been going on for up to 80 years. And it was found that what makes someone succeed in life eventually has nothing to do with the genetic makeup. It has nothing to do with how much school he went. It has something to do with who he knows and the social support that is available to him. So can you, seated here, mention 5 people that if you are broke, I won't say the rest of it. I'm trying to say that our social support has been tested and tried in the country so much, so that if for any reason the changes in madness, mental illnesses, we should have good reasons for that. Okay. Mental well-being is what I talk about. I'm not talking about mental illness as such. I'm talking about mental well-being. And when someone has mental well-being, he's in a state that allows people to cope with life stresses. They realize their abilities, they learn how to work well, contribute to their community, and function in a productive way. When you have all those things, you are having mental health. And like I say, it's very important to measure it. You remember that your doctors ask you to check blood pressure, whether you are sick or not. You don't need to wait until you are sick to check your blood pressure. You check it early, check your blood sugar early, check your mental well-being early. Because if you deviate from it, you are now exposed to lots of issues. So I don't know, I hope you can read. The books have all these things listed, so buy it. I'm trying to canvas for it to be bought. All right, so all these different aspects show evidence of mental well-being. But I'm rushing for this particular slide. I think this slide will give us, explain the 5 minutes we are talking about better. Now we have it on the extreme left, we have the band. Okay, that's the stuff you show. We have sorry, I need help. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have that blue band. It's a zone of mental well-being. Okay, so it's possible to be in that zone. One of the things we do, the only thing I plan to do for everybody present is we check how many of us are in that zone or how many have walked out of the zone. When you are in that extreme left zone, you have mental well-being. Let's go to the other extreme, the red band. When you are there, you don't need a psychiatrist to tell you you have mental illness or not. You know it yourself. When you see people, well, you may not know you are. Most times you don't actually. But our parents, we know people who are in that red zone. You don't need a doctor. It's just like having someone's leg broken. You don't need to be an orthopedic surgeon to know the person's leg is broken. You understand that? So the important one is in between the blue zone of mental well-being and the red zone. That is where expertise is now required. So we'll talk a little more about it. So we are going to take time. Many of you have been given papers already. If you have not, you can fill it because it's important. And if you haven't, we'll share a link later on so that you can check it. It's important, please. Now, the gold standard is not filling questionnaire. The gold standard is a clinical interview. You sit down and talk with the doctor. Takes like an hour. You talk about it, you ask questions, examine different parts of your mind. I gave a lecture some years ago on dissecting the mind. I'm sure some of you remember. The mind is not just a single entity. There are different components on it. So the psychiatrist will check all those components. They'll also do some questionnaire like we're going to do now. They can do some other interview, examinations, lab tests, and stuff like that before they can make a decision. One of the most common instruments we use is called the General Health Questionnaire. And it's simple, just 12 items. And it can be completed within 1 minute, just saying yes or no to some questions. So if you have or you were given, try and complete it because it's important. We've used that instrument extensively. I mean, that's the most used instrument on earth on assessment of mental well-being. And we've used it also extensively in Nigeria, in Calabar here. So I've written a few places we used it here because we've used it a lot. We showed that with it that people who were professional athletes in Calabar Stadium, working with the state sports commission, many of them, you know, people say you should exercise as part of good health. Many of them who were professionals doing exercises every day were not benefiting from it. It was just job. If you score like less than 2, 1 or 0 or 1, you are enjoying mental well-being. If you score between 2 and 3, did someone clap for himself for scoring 0? Why shouldn't you? You are my sister, so you have undue advantage. All right. So if you score over 2 to maybe 2 to 3, no. It's just like having the doctor tell you your blood pressure has gone up a little. You understand? The doctor telling you your blood pressure has gone up a little expects you to do things to remedy the situation. And if we'll be able to mention 1 or 2 of the things that you should be able to do to remedy the situation. If you score up to 5 and above, please get any of those people wearing gold, is it gold or yellow band if they're dressed up? They are called psychiatrists and they'll be able to do it. So if you've done the test, where are you really on this chart? So it's important. And the fact that you are 3 or 4 or 5 today is like being told that your blood pressure is up. It doesn't mean that you are having stroke. No. If you wait without taking precautions, you are going to have issues. So check and know where you are and that. Now, because of how much we've used the GHQ, we're now talking about the matters arising from the test. That in betwixt place that was mentioned. Because of how extensively we've used the GHQ, we've noticed that there are some problems with it. Basically, people who older, who used to do those primary schools in those days, were able to understand the logic of it, the response set. If you look at it, there is more than usual, far less than usual, things like that. People who've left secondary schools now don't understand that logic. So it's a problem for them to understand and feel it properly. The older people who went to standard and maybe 4 years or seem to understand it better. So because the instrument is so important and useful, we had to do lots of things to see whether we can improve that understanding. And what we did in Calabar with my team in Calabar, we had to look at the response set a little. What you are being given today is that new version of it. So it's easier to understand it. Not that you can't figure it out, but the easier version. We're still gathering information to check the validity and the psychometric characteristics of the instrument so that it can become generally used in the country. That doctors have who've cut rope, but in that band, many of the general practitioners, people who are not specialty doctors, are not able, that if there are 100 people who have mental and behavioral disorder, they are able to pick up 15 only of them. 15 out of 100, that was quite low. And I was that teacher, so there must be something wrong with me. I did 8 more years of training and stuff. It didn't get up to 20, still less than 20%. Some other person, not me, repeated the study 20 years after. That's 2003. So is it 20? About a little less than 20 years after. And it was still low. it's important, I'm not talking about psychiatrists here, but doctors, we all went to medical school, trained to be able to pick up all the illnesses. Some of us are super specialized, some are specialized, but once you see someone with mental and behavioral disorder, the ability to make that diagnosis is rather poor. And also check with other universities, people who didn't train in Calabar. I want to know whether it's a Calabar problem. It was not any different. It was still as bad. And it's important to note that other doctors who are not specialty doctors they can get it wrong. They only spend 4 weeks studying psychiatry, while the specialist spends like 6 years for those who pass exams properly. All right. So why was this? Was it the doctor? Sorry. Once it was the same thing all over the country, it freed me from being a bad teacher. But we also, I've stressed that many of the people they missed were in this group. Of course, closer to the right, they got right. The people who had lower scores, they had difficulty. Behavioral disorders. We are training at the wrong place. I've been waiting for it. Thank you. So we've been training at the wrong place. We send our doctors to psychiatric hospital to train. But how many of these people, remember that the bulk of the people are between the blue and the red band. The only people who go to psychiatric hospital are the red band people. You understand that all of us here, you don't even need to be a doctor. You see someone who has gone off, you pick him up immediately. You don't need any training to do that. So we train. So the bulk of the doctors, the bulk of the patients in the psychiatric hospital are those people with psychotic illnesses, the ones we call mad. The other ones who are with us, same hospital, teaching hospital, in churches, they don't go there. So the medical students are not exposed to those quality of patients. We found that out. The other thing is that the patients that are in the general hospitals or churches or here who are scoring high on the GHQ don't have those symptoms we teach medical students. They don't have a negative mood, they don't feel guilty, they're not hopeless. They're having other symptoms. The other symptoms they're having, we call them culture-bound somatic symptoms. When I was being introduced, you were told I spent the last maybe 10 years working on that. And that is why we are missing it up. And it's not exactly new. I just remembered that Dr. Owoidoho did some paper on that internal heat crawling sensation some years ago. We are looking at it now in a more systematized way in Calabar, and we're seeing that they are so important. Thank you for the starting on that, madam. Okay, so that is the point. So if we think that, and we're starting that in Calabar, that if the students train in the teaching hospital, and I've mentioned that 30% of patients with low back pain in orthopedic hospital have lost mental well-being. So if we get the students to train there and they pick it up, things will change. And I'm sure that if it's pushed like I intend to, things will change, not just in Calabar, but all over the country. Yeah. Now, I didn't mention this, but a study was done here some years ago, University of Calabar Medical Center, and we saw that 35% of our fresh men had lost mental well-being. We don't know whether it was the registration process, which is tedious. I'm looking at you, my VC, sir, which is, the registration is the tedious thing. You are used to having siesta, you are running around. So we don't every other day, who are having this problem, who are having that. So we think that if we do that screening on a regular basis, and those people who have such problems are identified early, it's possible to follow them up, support them, and reduce their stress. It would cut down on the cost of treatment of the whole university in the medical center. The last thing I want to mention is the provost of our medical school, Professor Ngim, is here. I think I saw one or two people from the community medicine also. The medical students, 2 years straight, I think, complained during talking with the provost. They talked with him and mentioned that they are stressed in the medical school, that many of them are not able to do this. They don't know that they need a lot of support. And the provost set up a committee so we have hotlines and stuff. So students, medical students in the college who have issues can call those hotlines and we discuss with them. And many of them have had their problems mitigated and they picked up. So I'm recommending that the university take that seriously and see if that can be expanded to cover the whole university so that students who have one issue or the other can call and get help. If we do that, not just will the amount spent in the medical center reduce, many of the students who have dropped off, have been rusticated and things like that, probably will be able to stay on and graduate. So those are the things. Gentlemen, I thank you for listening for the past several minutes. And I think this is when I do my acknowledgement. Thank you very much. No, this is not the time you clap. I just want to thank some people. I've alluded to some of the people I want to thank already. Joe, where's Joe? Joe is over there. We're first-year students together in university. I'm older than he is. Forget about his white hair. He studied veterinary medicine. So we used to fight over which is better and things like that. And I think they are better off, you know. They get paid more. All the doctors know that whatever doctors get, the veterinary surgeons get the same thing without a strike of one day. So, Joe, you were right. It's better. I told Joe that the country is very bad. He shouldn't come all the way, but he came. So thank you for coming despite that. It makes me feel good that someone. My sister is here and two of my children. Pat, I didn't even see you came in. Thank you very much. Pat is my in-law. He's more like a brother to me. There are things my brother and I couldn't do, and when we talked with him in those days, he was able to sort out. I'm indebted to him forever. One day I saw him sitting outside the office. I said, "Why are you doing here?" He came to see me and asked him to sit aside. I was alarmed. What if you just not say the rest of it? My sister is sure she wouldn't want to hear that. Thank you very much. I don't have a long list, but I thank my colleagues because some of the things that have been done here, there are people here like Nat, we did some studies together in the medical school and a few other people I can't see well. Thank you very much. Then I thank the MDCAL members. Yeah, Nat, thank you. I thank the medical people from the medical school who are here. 90%, no, like 70% of the group is made up of them. I thank you all for coming. So, gentlemen and ladies, I don't want to keep my this is standing. So, I think this is when I should say thank you very much for listening. Thank you. Thank you.
We send the device.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. This is one of the very rare topics that is being delivered in public like this. We appreciate you, sir. But before we allow you to sit down, you still have one assignment to do. I therefore request the Vice Chancellor, Acting Vice Chancellor, to step forward for the presentation of the
owing the university today. I'm presenting this lecture titled Measuring Madness Without an Interface to the Vice Chancellor.
In the same vein, I request the Acting Vice Chancellor to please present the memento to our guest lecturer on behalf of the university management. Acting Vice Chancellor, sir.
Before presenting this memento, I've learned something. As long as the magnets are not taking you to the magnets, and if yourself breakfast, and it does not get you 8 months of stress, you're still very safe. I told myself during the lecture that maybe after just 2 weeks of acting as a vice chancellor, I have almost moved beyond the blue. And wondering how people like Professor Gray were able to survive, rooted, and survive the University of Udofia. It is well, and I need to consult you after this news. So, on behalf of the 11 Vice Chancellor of the University of Calabar, who we are always proud with the best female Vice Chancellor, on behalf of management, on behalf of the University of Calabar, I present this memento to the 127th inaugural lecturer of the University of Calabar, Professor Owoidoho.
The chairman of the occasion, thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. Without wasting time, I want to invite the chairman committee of deans, ably represented, to come forth and give the vote of thanks.
Mr. Acting Vice President, all of the my job is to tell you thank you. Thank you for coming. Our chairman, sir, before I go on, I just want to ask 1 or 2 questions. How many of us know where Calabar is? Huh? You know, I grew up in this town, and as a secondary school student, when you say you went to Calabar, we believe they shift away from you. But today I know the full address, 123 Calabar. It's a wonderful place. I've visited a few times. I didn't go to see doctor. I went for other businesses. Indeed, Mr. Lecturer, I want to say thank you for giving us this evening. But you know, without the Vice Chancellor of the I don't even to get today. So, Mr. Vice Chancellor, I want to say thank you for providing this platform, for the ventilation of this wonderful idea. I want to thank the past Vice Chancellor of the thank all those who have paid their debts to the university. Thank you very much. The registrar, thank you, sir. And then, indeed, the representative of the registrar is the head of the directorate that works silently to ensure that this lecture is successful. Thank you very much, sir. I will not forget the Directorate of Information. The FC for this occasion is without directorate. They also do their job very well. Thank you, sir. And then to all my senior colleagues and all the professors in the house and all the academics in the house, thank you for coming. And for the immediate family of the lecturer, thank you for showing solidarity. For those who come from his village community, I said thank you very much. I didn't hear the name of the chief. He didn't come. For all the wonderful friends of our lecturer who came, thank you very much. God bless you. And for all of us, Malabrites and Malabres, you know, without the Malabrites and the Malabres, nothing will happen. Thank you very much for coming. God bless you even as you go back. Chairman, Committee of Deans, thank you very much for your presentation. Quickly followed by that, I want to invite the Acting Vice Chancellor to please present his closing remark.
Because some instruments actually vandalize the cables here. Unfortunately for us, they were cost. But the damage has already been done, and we're trying everything possible to fix it. I believe maybe by the next inaugural, the whole process will come. Thank you for coming. I'm so sure that we are now educated with respect to measuring first our own madness and then measuring the madness of people around us. For me, I'm still very safe. And I need to measure my madness, not to measure my blood pressure, which is still very normal. And we have heard that if you are not that stressed, your madness will remain within the blue band. And some of us, by God's grace, are still within the blue band. So thank you very much for the lecture. And having said that, I hereby declare the 127th inaugural.
Thank you so much. Please don't leave the hall. You are not formally closed. At this point in time, may I recognize the present, the commander, Nigerian Navy Reference Hospital, Calabar, Navy Captain Dr. Samuel Tui, represented by Navy Captain Dr. Umar Farouk, Head of the Department of Psychiatry and Nigerian Navy Reference Hospital. Can we look at this together, please? You're welcome, sir. As the acting Vice Chancellor said, we have come to the end of the 127th Inaugural lecture. Can we have one house, please? Thank you so much. Can we have one house? Can we be orderly? Thank you. Can we be together? Thank you so much. Thank you. Can get your party out talking. Thank you. At this point in time, may I request members of the high table, immediately after being council, they will put down and have a snapshot and from that procession will commence. Take notes. There will be a procession and everybody will pass through the aisle. Thank you so much. Procession will commence and everyone, members of the high table and those that are notes will pass through the aisle. Are we together? Are we together, please? So please may I request that we stand on our feet as we take the living recipe of Calabar. Please don't keep the whole. We are not wrong. Thank you.
The promise from my spirit, I sent to fulfill the sunrise. Ever born to find, ever born
Remain where you are, members of the high table, can we please go down and snapshot? I just cited the deputy vice chancellor, okay? Professor Angela. You're welcome. You're welcome. Please come with me. Please don't see the wall. Please come together, concession on now. Thank you. make a very point from section or
Juliet, go that place, go pack that bag. Come. Hey, guy, hey.